So hello, lovely to see you, Elsie. Hello to everyone watching.
Hi, great to see you as well.
Great to see you. So thank you so much, Elsie, for taking the time to chat with me today. Elsie is head of our ASL translations, and she's going to tell us a bit about what it was like and what it currently is like recording the glosses that make and train our ASL models for AI-powered sign language. So, Elsie, kind of over to you if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Elsie Stecker. I graduated with a BA in communications and then a BA in ASL education. I started teaching ASL and then I started teaching interpreting. And then, as it happens, I started interpreting myself and I just dove into the field full time and eventually became one of the first staff interpreters at the White House with my colleague Lindsay Snyder and then Genesee Bizart. A wonderful experience. And then I became an assessor of interpreters when they would go through screenings and so forth. And I feel that AI is really incorporated all of these skills. And I'm so excited to be here and now focus on AI signing in particular. So it's a really exciting time.
Great, that's very interesting. It's such a beautiful journey to kind of see how it started from you teaching it all the way through to how you're now being kind of at the forefront of like cutting edge technology when it comes to AI powered sign language. So I think that kind of leads us on
Mhm.
beautifully to how you work with us at Synapse and kind of your role behind the ASL model. So we have our like beautiful ASLs who we have one that's J and one that's Max, but the actual images are completely AI generated, but the signs behind it are all you who's signed these, who's done all that. So it'd be lovely to hear kind of about your journey doing that.
Oh, yes. When I first saw that, I actually went and got my kids and I wanted to show them. I said, "Look at that." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, that's me," sort of. And
Yeah.
it's always adventurous, right? It's always an adventure. So it's so wonderful to have a CDI, a certified deaf interpreter, involved in this process.
Mm,
So any discussion about AI and sign language, often companies are not fluent themselves in ASL. They don't have a strong connection to the deaf community. So I think it's so important, not just me, but hopefully others will be involved as well as we move forward. But it's really exciting to see these AI-powered avatars grow. And I know the community is looking forward to seeing more of that, particularly from Synapse and our work.
yes, definitely. And I guess like, so what kind of interests you about working with AI powered sign language technology? Like for the whole journey of like everything teaching, everything you kind of mapped out at the very beginning, what kind of like piqued your interest in working with this technology?
Hmm. Really, since day one, the deaf community, has always been really interested in technology
Mm,
and thinking about, talking to our neighbors and our friends. The deaf community has been very creative, starting with the TTY, baby monitor alarms, thinking about how the development of our community and our history has
mm.
worked in tandem with technology. And I think AI is right on with that journey. I think AI and the deaf community is quite a natural pairing in that way.
Yes, definitely. I have to ask, what did your kids think when they saw the AI the AI powered sign language that you kind of were behind building? Were they quite taken back? 'Cause it's always quite lovely to see what people think, but I'm always really curious to see what younger children, like teenagers, think of this technology as well.
Hmm. It's fascinating,
Yeah.
right? They're born with a phone and iPads in their hands, this
Mm.
current generation. So what we're discussing now, right? They're sort of like, oh, we know it's old news. But
Yeah.
there's still something to be learned.
Mm.
So the kids will sometimes study me when I'm working and when I'm developing the glosses, the different sign choices, you know, right? And I always have to start in this position before I
Yeah.
do each side. So they'll sort of tease a bit. They'll make fun of me, but
I think that kind of leads us quite nicely on, though, to kind of understanding how your role works with filming these glosses. So, you film every single gloss that is used to train the models, and they're all filmed by you. And I think that's such a great place to kind of understand from someone who it's very easy when you work at Synapse to kind of think, oh, well, it kind of just makes sense. But for a lot of people who aren't part of the company have no idea how any of this works. So I think actually hearing from your perspective how you film every single gloss could be quite interesting.
yeah, absolutely fascinating. And I'm really thankful that my journey has helped me understand. So I
Mm,
mentioned that, my first bachelor's was affiliated with communication. So it feels like sort of full circle in how to communicate clearly. So I'm thinking
mm,
about the sign that is most well known in the community, right? That's first level check. And then thinking about what makes sense when deaf people are watching it,
mm.
right? Because we don't have the ability to ask for clarification of an AI model. So we have to think about what makes the sentence the most semantically clear, and thinking about we don't want it to look like a run-on sentence, so not just semantics, but
Yeah.
grammar. So to have natural breaks and rests, it can be quite complicated. Right? I have quite a pile of my old books from my school programs, graduate school and linguistics, and I'm looking and reviewing uh, to sort of feed the library to grow our data set. And
Mm.
that's something that I work on continuously.
Yeah, I think it's such a interesting point because just because you can communicate in any language doesn't make you an expert in that language. Like I communicate in like spoken English, but that doesn't mean that I have the right tools or the right expertise to be an English teacher or to be an English translator. And I think that's a really interesting point that you're kind of discussing is like the training that you do and the glosses that you film is done by you as an expert in sign language. And even it's your way of communicating, it's you're an expert in that field that trains the models.
Yes, I agree. That's another thing I noticed with different AI companies. Um, they have, sort of investment in the good enough
Mm,
data set. And the results are that the model does not look good or clear or as
mm,
viable. The grammar and structure is not there, and which makes it incomprehensible and a waste
yeah,
of that investment. With a certified deaf interpreter that has a strong background in interpreting, linguistics, language, that is really helpful as a part of the process in order to make sure that the product is successful.
definitely, definitely. Have you came across like any whilst you're filming or whilst you're putting things together, if you came across anything you thought, oh, I've just never thought about it like that before. I always think whenever you're communicating, it's just second nature, isn't it? But if you were to take a complete step back and you're doing it from a point of view of the expert role, you must suddenly have to be like almost slightly thinking everything through in a completely different way.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, you can't just hire somebody off the street. You need
Yes.
somebody who's an expert in the field. Absolutely. I agree with that. Yes.
Completely. And I guess kind of about like some of the recordings that you've done, you kind of talk about when your children might come in and do like mock and laugh a little when you're standing so perfectly in between the glasses. I guess if you ever, when you kind of started out, kind of recording some of the glasses and figuring out how some of the stances work, the filming setup. Did you ever have a moment where like any funny things or memorable moments of just thinking, what am I doing? Like just standing here doing these filming and recording.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. With time, related to time.
Mm,
So we thinking about developing, signs for things related to time, airport, bus stations, trains. But for myself, I look at the time, I would say 8:15, 8:30, 8:45, 9 o'clock, right? Signed very simply in that way. But 8:20, 8:21, I'm signing 8:22, I'm signing 8:23, 8:24. My brain just
yeah.
disconnects, right? So I'm signing, right? It's a really simple sign, but going through all of these numbers, right, your hands become sort of automated and
Mm.
it feels very off-putting. So sometimes it can be a struggle to do something really that simple just because of the repetitive nature of it.
I completely know what you mean. It's like when you write words like so many times and you start looking at that word thinking, is that definitely how you spell it? Is that is that right? And you just repeating it
Yes,
constantly.
exactly, exactly that. Did I finish signing 47, 8:47? I can't remember.
Yeah.
10:47, 10:48 as it's happening.
Yeah, but I completely understand that. And I guess like so kind of moving on slightly towards the kind of back towards the models and the training and the strategy you kind of been doing for them. How do you kind of see this is going to impact the wider kind of deaf community of America? Because you you head up ASL, they're all ASL glosses, and you're American, you live in America. It must feel quite like, personal to you as well that you're training and creating something that's going to have such a massive impact.
Oh, yes. Right. It's not something that you can dismiss or make light of.
Yeah,
It is personal. And I'm well aware of the sense of responsibility that goes with that. And I always try considering this is really about building a strong foundation right now. And then I
mm,
expect to see, growth in the platform, different signs being added, or there are regional signs. There's BASL, Black American Sign Language, that can be integrated over time as well. So that's something that
yeah,
I'm really interested in making sure it's inclusive later. It's important to me. We often are reminded and talk about accessibility and inclusion. So I'm often very mindful of how we think about that, not just now, but in the future.
yeah. No, completely. And I think that's something whenever you talk to people, whenever you talk to go to like trade shows or events, and you talk about the variety of sign language and not just within the languages themselves, like BSL, ASL, it's the nuances and like the fact that sign language can have an accent or there's different variations of the same language. So to have that all covered, that's complete accessibility, right?
Yes, right, exactly. And it's nice to think about later on, thinking about working as a CDI, right? We're already working with AI in
Mm,
some ways, right? Like ASR captions, we're already working with that and have been for some time. But if
mm.
we are working with an AI avatar or whatever the community is signing for avatar right now, it's a little different with finger shapes depending on where you are, speaking of particular signs. So a CDI can set their preference,
Mm.
what that signing looks like, something that is more signed English or more closer to more of a stronger ASL dialect. So the opportunities for that, it's exciting to think about what can be possible moving forward.
Yeah, I think that kind of leads us really nicely onto another point around where do you kind of see this technology like going? Like, the not just with Synapse, but the sign like AI powered sign language is just that it will grow, it will develop. How do you see it kind of shaping how the deaf community interacts with it and where it could be used?
Right? So what we're talking about now, tomorrow we might have a different answer. Uh,
Yeah.
but make something that I want or I can see, right? In automated situations, right? I go to the bank and need to talk to someone there, something that can be set up, right? A bank does not
Hmm.
guarantee a live interpreter. So a place where it can be automated, right? So thinking about the future, having a holographic
Yeah.
interpreter, so anything is possible. If my kids are, right, they're curious, they want to know where Mount Everest is. They want
Hmm.
to ask a question, and it's something that can be explained on the map in each of the countries, something that can be visual in that way because the avatar is visual in that way. So I can envision things like that, in the future.
Yeah, and I think what you've touched on is such an incredible point as well, because it's whenever we say to people around AI powered sign language and what we do at Synapse, there's always that kind of fear that we're looking at replacing an interpreter. But I think what you've really kind of highlighted here is key areas where we don't have interpreters. And, for making something visual on a map to explain something or at a bank. And it allows interpreters to do the really core important jobs around courts, doctors' surgeries, hospital appointments. It allows them to be able to have the, that important space and then other members of the deaf community to be able to have equal access.
Yes. Yes, that's right. Right? Like Disneyland, Disney World,
Yes.
right? There's events or things like that, like ready, accessible interpreting and access and signing sign language to watch. It would be wild. It's a fascinating possibility.
No, it completely is. And it's so interesting to kind of look at it from your perspective in this, that the fact that it might not be your face, but you're helping train all of this technology that's going to create so much more open access.
Yeah. Yes. It's exciting to see that for sure. Uh, I love to work with purpose. I like my
Mm,
work to have impact, which is why it felt like this is the right place for me and I was ready to get started. This is really a new concept. And I know a lot of people in the deaf community are scared, there are mixed reactions, right? There's some hopefulness, and that conversation is continuing. I mean, thinking about being involved with the AI industry right now and how it's going to go forward, but it needs to go forward with us in order for it to benefit us. And so I'm really
yeah.
grateful that my values align with Synapse and how they work with the community.
Mm,
Uh, right? I don't understand BSL, but I watched Synapse and saw the company's work before in BSL. but I understood their values in how they worked with the
Mm,
community. And I thought this is the kind of company that I would want to work for because of that.
yeah, and I think that's like, again, it touched on a really important part that is working obviously with the deaf community to build this technology and not against it or shutting them out. It's about inclusiveness with them to help build.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to more of it as we go.
Right. Elsie, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today and kind of hearing more about how you help build this AI sign language technology at Signapse and hearing all your stories about being behind the screen and recording each gloss that we use to translate into ASL.
Absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.